Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for your support. So today I have a review of LSC 2456, Lalo Symphonie Espagnole. Walter Hendl conducting the Chicago Symphony Orchestra with Henryk. Szeryng. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the last name right. I've heard a couple of different variations. Beautiful, beautiful record. And we're going to talk all about the original Shaded Dog, the Victrola, the 4-track tape, the classic records, and the Analogue Productions, which is still in print. So let's get on to this. I remember when I got this, I was like, this, I never heard it, of course. I got it early on in my Living Stereo collector days. It's a 4S, I think 4S Indianapolis pressing. It comes in a matte texture jacket. It's like a tan kind of sand color. Very pretty. Easy to get marked up though in a bin, if it's just sitting in a bin. My copy's not in the greatest shape. It's got a, has it got tape? No, it doesn't have tape. But it's got a little watermark here. This was recorded by John Crawford and produced by John Pfeiffer. So a different team than the normal from the Chicago recordings. Usually we get more in Leighton with the Reiner recordings, but for some reason this was a different team, and it is a bit of a different sound as well. I have the RCA Bible here, and I'm just gonna, he has a short, Jonathan Ballin has a short note about this record. I just wanted to read it to you. Okay, so he had a 1S pressing, and he says, a little more upfront than most CSO discs. This is quite a stunner, and I must agree. True, Szeryng's violin is spotlit, and because of the close miking, both solo violin and strings are a bit dry and bright, but not objectionably so. And the stage is somewhat shallower than usual, but the transparency on that stage is high, the low end quite deep, and the dynamics simply terrific. And this is so true. This is one of those RCAs which maintains the vividness of a Mercury without sacrificing the tonal richness and superior ambiance retrieval of a Shaded Dog. Top notch. He gives it a 10++. And I couldn't have said it better. Now, at this time, the time this was written, I don't believe the classics were even out yet. So he was only discussing the original pressing. That was all that was around. Well, except for the Victrola. So, yes, it is a 10++ disc. It is a beautiful original Living Stereo. Mine is a Shaded Dog label pressing. I didn't write down, I usually write down the stamper numbers, and I cannot see them right now. I'd have to look at it under a light, but I believe it's a 4S. This has all the hallmarks of the best Living Stereo recordings. The string tone on the violin is beautiful, beautiful. The climaxes that he talks about being so dynamic and everything, they are really striking on this because of its upfront perspective. And yeah, the orchestral parts are really beautiful. Everything is kind of held in check here. If you had never heard anything else, you would probably not care to hear anything else. It's that good. But today we have other options that we can access, like the classic and the AP. And maybe there are improvements that could be had, and I'll let you know what I heard. But I have a real attachment to this original. I remember when I first found it, I fell in love with the music, absolutely. Szeryng's performance is just, it's absolutely breathtaking, really beautiful. It's not clinical at all. It has just enough romance to it to keep it interesting, I think, instead of just an exercise. It's just Just lovely. Really, really beautiful. The sound of the orchestra is very good too. Has a nice low bass floor, as Violin said. It isn't the deepest sound stage you get in orchestra hall, but there is some good width in it. And the upfront perspective is nice. It's different than most of the recordings that are set back a little bit further. The second release to talk about in chronology would be the tape. This is a 4-track tape. I am going to hold off talking about this until the end, but I did compare it A-B to the original and the AP. Next one is from the Victrola line. So this was done a few years later, and this is one of the better Victrolas. Really, if you stumble across this Victrola, at least the pressing I have, which is a 1S 5S. It's excellent. It really is good. The Plum label Victrola retains a lot of the character of the original pressing. It's not one of those Victrolas that's like a real downgrade. It's actually pretty good, and I enjoyed every minute of it. This you can find for $10 or so. The original will set you back $100 or so. In Violin's days, when he wrote the RCA Bible, he wrote 125 for the original. So this is good. It doesn't have a high level of tape hiss like some of these Victrolas, and it's really quite good. I loved it. The next one, we have to talk about these jackets because they are changing rapidly. Look at the color of the original, and look at the cantaloupe color of the classic. Yeah, they didn't get the color right. I don't know why. It's not a difficult color to reproduce, but this is the classic. This was cut by Bernie Grunman, pressed at RTI. The pressing's gorgeous, really beautiful. They were knocking it out of the park with the pressings when they were doing this part of the series. The classics, well, I love Bernie Grunman's work in general, and many of the classic living stereos are great. I've talked about some of them, some of the 45s. It all just depends. In this case, I feel like this one's cut a little too hot. It really is big, it's vivid, it has more bass. The strings sound great in general, but the climaxes are so loud that they get a little unpleasant, I think. It's just a hot cut. And maybe when I change the turntables, which is happening this week, and change cartridges, maybe the whole thing will be different. Maybe I'll have to do these all over again. I don't know. But I think in general, most people will find it's listenable, but it's a little hot. And it takes away a bit of the beauty that you hear on the original and the Victrola. So if you have a classic, I think you can do better, even going backwards to the Victrola or the original. And yes, you will give up something. You will give up some big dynamic range and a deeper bass floor. But in this music, it's not really... The deep bass floor is nice to have, but it's not absolutely necessary. What is necessary is the strings. The strings have to sound right, and fortunately they do on the classic, pretty much, and they absolutely do on the earlier two pressings. Next we have AP's Analogue Productions version. This is still in print as of this writing. As you can see, things are getting darker again. Now we have a mango color jacket, and here's the original. I just don't know. I don't know why they didn't pay attention to that. But it is in a nice glossy jacket. Everything looks good, looks beautiful, really nice. Pressed at QRP, mastered from the, I imagine, 3-track tape by Ryan K. Smith. Yeah, it's a lovely pressing, and I think I think for most people who are searching for a record, this might be the best choice. It certainly is the best real-world choice. It's in print, it's affordable. As I said, an original will set you back 100 or more. It's better than the classic. It is better than the Victrola. So you have a lot of things going for it. It does have a big expansive sound as well. Nice deep bass floor. Good rendering of space. It's very quiet. And the violin tone is excellent. It is not bright or steely. It's just about right. The climaxes are controlled really well, with plenty of power, but doesn't go overboard like the classic did. In comparing the tape, now, I've talked about tapes, some classical tapes on the channel before, and I see a trend developing with the tapes. And I'm not sure if it's just that the Revox is such a lush, romantic kind of sound from the Revox that it imparts this character on the tapes, or if it's the tapes themselves. I'd have to compare on different machines, which I will do soon. I'm going to get my Pioneer back at some point, but yeah, this has a huge, expansive sound. It wraps around you more than the records do. The records are more concise and detailed. This is like billowing out into a big, big sound. And as a result, the bass floor is good. The string tone is just gorgeous on this. Really, it's probably the best of all of them. The climaxes are good. They are powerful, but they don't have quite the edge that like the AP does. It keeps it in check a little bit more, a little smoother sound. Very, very pretty. The tape is great. I mean, if you have the tape, you probably are not interested in records. And if you've never tried tape, this is a good one to try from the Living Stereo series. It's quite good. There is a little tape hiss, more than the records, but I don't mind it. It actually reassures me that nothing's being sliced off the top, and it gives it an airy sound that's just so beautiful, really beautiful. In A-Bing this against the Analogue Productions, I was very surprised that the Analogue Productions and the tape are very similar. And if this tape is any indication of what a master tape might sound like, even on the smallest level, the AP is giving you a good dose of master tape sound and giving you a bit more razor sharp clarity and incisive nature to Szeryng's performance. So I think the AP is a natural choice for anyone that's searching for this performance. Certainly I have a romantic attachment to the sound of the original, and I do in many cases. I like to have the best original and the best reissue, and the best reissue is certainly this one, the AP. So those are my thoughts on this beautiful classic Living Stereo title. We'll get to more Living Stereo titles as time permits. And until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.